crazy well known, but he's like making his way up. So one day she goes to bed thinking life is still good, you know, Patty DeCourcy, this politician, is still her boyfriend. And the next morning, well, she finds out that Patty, her boyfriend, is engaged. Not to her, but to Alicia Thornton, the woman he told her not to worry about. I really hope that her breakup is worse than anyone that you've experienced, because if not, I'm so sorry. But little tangent aside, which mind you, this is so much worse because not only are you blindsided, but like this is humiliating in a sense because everyone knows. I mean, okay, no one knew that they were dating. Like, she has lilac hair and he's a politician. So like, I mean, like, it made sense she would have been bombarded by the press. But like, this is just, it's awful. So she's freaking out. She's calling her friends, and her friends are like, girl, we hate it, and like, good riddance, you should be happy. Which, like, look, even if your friends are right, you do not want to hear that when you are grieving the love of your life. So Lola calls Patty, and there's no answer. So she calls Patty again, and again, and again, and again, and again, and no joke, she literally calls him like 70 times in a row with no answer. So she does the thing. Don't do this. This, I feel like, could land you in jail potentially, but she goes to his house, because like, you would take her there a lot, obviously, and she starts banging on the door, like, Patty, open up, it's Lola, Patty, let me in, Patty, talk to me, what's going on? And his driver, Spanish John, which, by the way, he's not Spanish, like, I don't know why he nicknamed him Spanish John, like, he's super pale, a billion freckles, and curly red hair, like, this man is obviously not Spanish, so, not very funny sense of humor, Patty, but Spanish John is like, well, like, he comes up, and Lola's like, oh my god, Spanish John, I need to talk to Patty, he's in there, right, is he in there, let me talk to him, and Spanish John is like, you should leave, Lola, and like, he's not mean about it, but it's very much a tone of like, if you break up with someone and you're groveling at your ex's parents, like, that's kind of the vibe. At least I would think so, right? But he's just like, Lola, like, you have to go. Look, like, if you arrive to your flat, your apartment, but like, you gotta go. And mind you, so Lola's calling her friends in the midst of all this, and she's like, hey, friend, can you get me some soup? I'm outside Patty's house, I've been banging on the door, and her friends are like, no, like, Lola, you're gonna go to jail like that, like, leave. So finally, Spanish John is able to get Lola away, and she goes to her friend's house, and she is an absolute disaster, which, like, to be fair, you can't really blame her. Like, she was blindsided, and she was told via newspaper. Like, imagine how terrible that must be. So anyway, she goes to her friend's house, and finally she gets some sleep. And when she wakes up, like, it's not a smooth sleep either, by the way. Like, her friend is like, look, we are going to be on Lola patrol. Like, you can stay as long as you need to, but you cannot go to his house. And at night, she, like, can't sleep, so she tries to sneak out. Her friend, by the way, is, like, married with, I think she has a kid, but they have a house alarm system. So Lola tries to make an escape, and the alarm blares off, and Lola ends up staying. And the next morning, after Lola miraculously got some sleep, she is mortified. Like, what kind of psycho does that? Not to mention, Lola's messing up at her job too. Like, Lola is really good. Like, all the celebrities want to work with her, but like, Lola brought the wrong dress, got the wrong size, she's late. It's really, really bad. Like, if Lola keeps this up, she's literally going to have zero clientele left. And when she's telling people about the breakup, and people are like, oh, who did you date? She's like, Patty DeCourcy. And everyone's like, yeah, I'm sure you dated Patty DeCourcy. And like, I don't want to be mean, but it's kind of like, Patty's marrying someone that you would expect an up-and-coming politician to marry, and Lola does not fit that. And Lola's assistant is like, hey, Lola, I think you should go away for a little bit. I'll take care of things here. Like, like, since you're training me, I'm pretty well equipped, and just take some time for yourself. And at first, Lola's like, no, and then she keeps messing up, and then she finally agrees. Her friends also think it's a wonderful idea. So at first, Lola's like, should I go all the way to And like Lola will always go there and ask him, hey, is the soup lumpy? And he's like, nope, no lumps in the soup. So that's like their bit. There's also this really cute guy, Jake, who like has been ogling Lola. According to Lola's best friend, Jake is way too attractive for Lola, so like she should take the opportunity. Look, I don't care how true a statement may or may not be, you should not say that to your friend who's grieving a breakup, in my opinion. And Lola actually finds like a core group of friends, or like kind of a core, it's like 3 people. They help her get unemployment because she's currently unemployed, which Lola feels kind of like scummy about because like, she doesn't really need the money per se, but like she kind of does. And then she has a couple run-ins with her neighbor, Rosa Constantine, and he's honestly really unpleasant. Like he's super sarcastic, and like she's seen him acting pretty irrational. Like one time she saw him just like on the beach, like, and he was with some woman in like a wedding dress, and then the day after she saw him burn the wedding dress. Like weird behavior, but like whatever. So a little bit of time passes, and mind you, this entire time there's been this reporter, Grace Gildy, and she has been hounding Lola for an interview. And Grace has been like, I know Patty, like I'll give you 5K for a story, 7K. And Lola's like, no, why do you care so much? And Grace is like, I used to know Patty when we were younger. And for some reason Lola thinks she's telling the truth, but like she's still not gonna sell her, like not gonna get it, like she's still not going to tell the information. Because like even though Patty is a cheater and is supposedly gonna marry this woman who's not her, she still loves him, like, you know, like that's his career. She said anything, like his career is gone. Lola's actually made some friends, and Rosa Constantine, her neighbor, honestly his name for some reason is kind of hard for me to like, it doesn't roll off the tongue easily, so I'm gonna call him Connor. Connor goes up to her, like when he finds out what she does, he's like, hey, can you do me a favor? Can you order me women's shoes, size 11? And Lola's like, okay, why? And Connor tells her, I'm a cross-dresser, and like, you kept saying that you saw me dance with a woman in a wedding dress. No, that was me. It was me dressed up in a wedding dress. And he asks her if on Fridays he can go to her house, or like where she's staying, and just cross-dress. Like they could like watch Law and Order, SVU, and just have a good time. And Lola's like, honestly she doesn't want to, but he's like, hey, I'm the one who like helped you get like unemployment, and that is true. So she's like, you know what, fine. And that Friday he comes over, and they honestly have a really good time. And then they start talking as you would in these kinds of situations, just make conversation. And Lola asks him about his girlfriend Jillian, because like she's seen Jillian out in town and stuff, and like they chatted for a little bit. And Connor's like, oh yeah, like she doesn't mind, but like he doesn't want it to be in his house for whatever reason. This becomes just like a weekly Friday thing at Lola's house. Like they watch stupid TV shows, reality TV, and cross-dress, and like eat and drink. And honestly, Lola's always trying to have a really good time. Like they go out together. They started going out together, like to bars and stuff, and they had a really good time. And still, Grace Gildy is calling Lola, like asking her, can I interview you? I want to tell you a little bit about Grace. Grace Gildy is a journalist, and she has a wonderful boyfriend, Damien. Like they've been together for kind of a while now, and like overall Grace likes her job. Work is work, life is typical. And then her car is set on fire, and they have no idea who did this. Like she's assuming, okay, you know what, this was probably just like a random thing, like it's the city, it's not that safe. Come to find out that actually no, her car was targeted. Someone paid to have that happen to her car. She's like calling up her other journalist friends, and she's like, hey, this is what happened, can you like figure out who did it? And they're like, alright, sure. In the meantime, because of Patty's engagement being big news, she has to interview Alicia Thornton. And like the thing is, Alicia specifically requested Grace, and Grace is like, what the hell? Like, you know, fine, it's for the job, I'll do it. So the day of the interview, she goes to Alicia's house, her apartment, and Alicia welcomes her like, oh my goodness, Grace. And she tries to do like the double kiss thing. Grace is just like a wall. She is like stone. She's like, hello, Alicia. And she like doesn't even say hello. She just walks in and sets the tape recorder down on the table, and she's like, alright, Grace calls up Lola and she's like, hey, this is the situation and this is what's going on with Dee Rossini. Literally, women's lives are at stake here, and also the political party and Dee's career. Can you please do this for us? And Lola's like, only if the other victims are also going to be there. And Grace is like, done. And somehow Grace convinces Marnie to join them. So all four of them technically, they go to Patty's house. And the three of them barge in because Dee waits in the car. It's Grace, Marnie, and Lola. And Patty's like, oh, welcome. So nice of you guys to join. It's like a nice little reunion. Hi, how are you? I hate this guy. They confront Patty, and Alicia's there too. And they're like, we're gonna leak the story. We'll make a deal. You don't go to the press with your story about Dee and the refugees. We won't make our stories public. And Patty laughs, maniacally. And he's like, what are you talking about? Lola, you and we just had some fun. And Lola, very meekly, she's like, I'm not a doll. And Patty's like, then why'd you let yourself be treated like one? And Marnie is also like, because in Marnie's mind, she's still holding out hope that Patty will realize that, hey, she was the love of my life. Mind you, she's married, and Marnie loves Nick. I think this is just unfinished business in her psyche. And Patty is like, Marnie, we just had some teenage fun. I thought you knew that. And he's like, no one's gonna believe you, just the two of you. You're just gonna look like two mad women making a scene. So this plan is not going according to plan. It is going horrendously wrong. Grace is just spitfiring through these. It is not good. Like, Grace does not want to be there. Like, she's pretty sure that Marnie is gonna tell Damien about, like, what happened with Patty, and, like, this was all in vain, all for nothing. It's, like, Grace is like, whatever. She's about to leave and shake Zara's hand when Zara sees the mark on Grace's hand. And Zara's like, where'd you get that from? What is that? And Grace was like, it's nothing. And Zara's like, let me guess. You fell for Patty's charms. And then the abuse got worse. He burned your hand. And now you're terrified of him. And Grace is like, what are you? How do you know? And Zara's like, why do you think I left Ireland? She and Patty dated back in the day. And the reason that she left Ireland, everyone thought that, like, I don't know, with, like, she had some random scandal, she just wanted to make it big. No. But the reason that she left Ireland was because of Patty. He abused her so badly. So, like, she had to leave. And then Zara also told her about one of Patty's other victims. So this victim, she was like a champion skier, snowboarder, one of the two. And her career was literally ruined because Patty, like, broke her hand and I think, like, permanently disabled her. So, like, he ruined her life. I would argue more than the others just because, like, he literally took away her career, which, I'm not saying that, like, oh, he didn't harm the others. He did, but, like, this was particularly bad. And Grace is suddenly reinvigorated. She tells Zara her plan, and Zara's like, look, I can get the other girl on board. We got you. So again, same thing. Marnie, Lola, Zara, and the ski girl. I think her name was like Amanda or something. I don't remember. She's not that big in the story. But they go back to Patty's, and Patty opened the store and he's like, oh, hello girls. Oh, don't tell me you're gonna try to reenact yesterday grabbing Alicia's hand. What got into you, Grace? So they all go and they sit him down and they're like, we have a proposal. We won't go forward with all of our stories because, mind you, it's the 5 of them. So, like, people are gonna believe them. Because, like, it's not only the cigarette burn. If it were just that, like, yeah, don't get me wrong, so messed up. But, like, there was SA, there was physical assault, there was all this stuff, which, like, it's just bad. And Patty's like, what do you want? And they're like, we want you to drop the party, we want you to leave Ireland, all this stuff. And he's like, I'm not gonna do that, you idiots. And then, so Grace is, like, faltering. She's like, oh my god, okay, well, can you just withhold the article and then apologize to us? Patty's like, fine. And then they all start erupting in laughter because they use the business tactic of asking for way more than what you actually want and settling for what you actually want. And Patty is appalled, like, for the first time in their lives, since knowing Patty, like, they see that he's embarrassed. But he already agreed, like, fine, I won't go public with the refugee article. So